Welcome everybody. This is Jason, and the name of this week's workshop is Forging Your Destiny. This is about converting objects from Skyrim to TS2, and it's going to be a two-part workshop. This week we're focusing on the tools that we use to convert the actual meshes and how you build meshes in Milkshape. So let's jump right in. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, what's your process for converting from Skyrim? I export my NIF. The NIF is the Gamebryo format. It's a format used by Skyrim, Skyrim Special Edition, and other Bethesda games. I export that either in Nifskope or Outfit Studio. I scale, I rotate, I fix shading issues. You can fix seams at the same time. And in the case of accessories and clothes, I assign bones. And then I export the matching texture to correspond to it. What tools do you need to export from Skyrim? Well, for the mesh, you need something that can support a NIF file. This would be Nifskope or Outfit Studio. And you need a plugin for Photoshop for importing the DDS format, in addition to Milkshape and ZimPE that you would normally use to build a regular mesh. And all of those, I'm not going to go into how to install them and set them up. All of the links are in the workshop post. So, to begin extracting a mesh, we would open the mesh in Nifskope. If you have Nifskope installed, you just double click on your NIF file and you should see something like this. So we open in Nifskope. Then from there, we go File, Export, Export OBJ. And we send that mesh to the project folder. Then, sometimes for whatever reason, we can't get it to export properly from Nifskope, so we would need to do it in Outfit Studio. So we open Outfit Studio, we drag the NIF into the workspace here, and it should show you something like that in the viewport. Then we go Export to OBJ, and we would just export it to the project folder as we normally would. Importing and scaling. Now, Skyrim uses a completely different size of models than Sims 2, so it does take a lot of work to get them to look good. The way that we would do this, to import the mesh, in Milkshape we select Import, Wavefront Object, and we just import it directly into Milkshape like that. So when we look at it in the 3D viewport, we can see this model is not oriented correctly. It's way too big, and it's not oriented as it would be, to align with a regular Sims body. So we need to scale and rotate. So with the object selected in the Group tab, in the Modeling tab, we would select the Rotate button. Very important, we select Origin. Then we rotate 270 degrees on the X. Then we set the X back to 0, and we rotate 180 degrees on the Y-axis. That's going to orient it correctly, but it's still a giant mesh. We need to scale it. Then we go to the Scale button on the Model tab. Again, we make sure that Origin is selected, and we'll see why when we actually start to do it. It depends how you exported the mesh. If you exported it from Nifskope, it's going to be, you need to scale it to 0.013 on all axes. If it's Outfit Studio, it will be 0.13 on all axes. For some random reason, Outfit Studio exports it about 10 times bigger than Nifskope. I have no idea why it does that, but that's the gist of it. From there, depending on what we're building, we can import a WSO action or something to get the mesh to align to the Sim's body size. We trim away any excess. We can use Cat's normal smoother to fix any shading issues, and we just make the mesh look nice. Okay, so let's get into this. I'm going to start with a static object, and I think I shared it in the workshop post. It's called Beehive01. So I have Nifskope installed, so I'm just going to open this in Nifskope. And if you play the game at all, okay, yeah, this is a beehive. So we go File, Export, and we just click OK on the pop-up. Back up to my desktop. And I'm going to export it right here in the workshop folder. Just call it Beehive. And now I linked this mesh. This is something you can download from the Nexus. The Nexus is a site that has a whole bunch of Skyrim mods, like user-made mods. And I'm just going to open in Nifskope this oddly shaped shield. Okay, so yeah, why not? This would make a cool accessory. And once again, we go File, Export, Wavefront Object. And I'm going to call this Shield, just for now. Okay, so I also linked Heavy Armor Pants. This is from Vector Plexus. They do, well, all kinds of cool stuff, but some of their stuff is adult oriented, so we won't visit the site today. And now what I'm going to do, because this exports differently, for some reason it will not, you can't import it into Milkshape if you export it from Nifskope. So I'm looking for one in the heavy armored pants. I am looking for the one that says wolf. And let's grab the one that says wolf pants _0. So we just zip that right in there like that. And then I go File, Export, as Wavefront, and then we go to the project folder. Just like that. And then I need some boots to go with that though. Go to armor. And then there should be one that says wolf. Sorry, it's a little bit off the screen. We'll just grab the male boots _0. Okay, so we got these cool looking boots. Export to Obj. And back to our project folder. So for the static object, we go File, Import, Wavefront, and I'm going to grab that Beehive01. And there's a bunch of crap here that we don't need. We don't need the trigger. We don't need the flame. Don't need that. That needs to stay. Those can go. Roof tip, roof base. Glow. We don't need the glow, really. Well, hold on. If I delete that, is it going to mess it up? No, there's a solid object under there. Okay, so we don't need all of these special effects from the game. So we stick with just the 3 static parts that would look good as a 3D object. We select those in the group tab. We'll hop over to model. Then we go rotate. We need to make sure that this origin radio dial is selected. And then we need to rotate. So we got 270 on the X first. And you can see that puts us right on the opacity plane. So it's not going to clip through. It's not going to have all these weird shadows. That's why we select origin here. Put the X back to 0. And now we need to get it facing the correct direction. So we just go 180 on our Y. Rotate. And then to fix the shading, I go File. No, sorry, Vertex. Cat's normal smoother. Bam, fixes the shading. Okay, so this is still giant. We need to scale it. We go to Scale. Once again, select Origin. And this, we exported this from Nifskope. So we need to go 0.013, 0.013, 0.013. We scale, and then we just go frame all in all 4 viewports. Now this appears to be to scale. We've still got some like funky shading going on with the roof, so let's have a look at that. That's the part that we need to fix. Okay, what is happening? What if I just unweld these vertices? There it is. It looks a little weird, but who cares? Once you get it textured and get it into game, it will look fine. Okay, then we just go File, Export, and we export that right back where we got it from. So in next week's workshop, we'll see how to build this as a static object. So we got our beehive. Now, when you mess with Body Shop, it's a little bit different. So if you're following along, in the workshop post, I added just a male underwear mesh, and that's what I'm going to load up now. And I've explained how to do morphs before, but for the purpose of this workshop, I am not going to mess with morphs. We're just going to add the stuff. So we import. Let's do shield first because that's super easy. Okay, so you can see Where'd the little dude go? The dude is teeny tiny in comparison to the shield. So we just select the gold and bronze parts. And we do the rotation again. 270 on the X with origin selected. And then 180 on Y. And we're probably going to have to fine tune a little because it goes in his hand. But we'll see what happens. Oh, okay, so hit that Y. And then let's use Cat's Normal Smoother to fix the shading. And then we go to Scale. Make sure both groups are selected. In this case, did we use Nifskope for this? Yeah, it was Nifskope. Now let's frame all in all 4 viewports. Now, it's a shield, so we probably want it to be in his left hand. Let's go to Rotate. And this time, because the shield is not oriented correctly for his hand, we're going to need to rotate on the Z-axis. So we go 180 on the Z. Now we've got the handle facing downward, which is kind of where we want it. Then we go Face. Sorry, Vertex. Cat's Normal Smoother. That fixes our shading once again. Let's move it around a little. Not quite there. We need to move in a bit to see what's happening. Right around there. But you see that's still clipping through his forearm. So now we need to whoa. The issue here is that it's still set to origin. So we need to select center of mass when we do the rotate here. See, that just rolls it smoothly out away from his forearm. Let's move it once again. See, this needs to be in his palm, but it doesn't quite need to be clipping through. And this needs to come way forward. And let's rotate this once again. And I think that's about as good as it gets. So now, let's get rid of that body. So we really only, if we're building an accessory, we really only need the accessory mesh. Go to Joints. Double click. Left hand. And you see that turns left hand green. Then we go back to Model, Select. We just box select both of those. Back to Joints, and we assign. Get rid of colored groups, and we select Draw Vertex Weights. And now we can see it is correctly assigned to his joint. That's our accessory. So we go wool pants, not an issue. Let's get rid of that body. Select the pants. Then let's rotate. 270 on the origin. Let's set that back to 0 and rotate 180 Y on the origin. So we're oriented correctly. And this, we imported this in, or we exported this from Outfit Studio. So here we go 0.01, or no, I'm sorry, 0.13 this time. Because we can see it's a lot larger of a model than the beehive or the shield. So that's going to be 0.13 in all three directions. And we're scaling again on the origin. And let's see. Let's just put everything back in the frame. What I want to do with this, I just want to get rid of those leggings, because it's going to depend on the Sims regular leggings. Let's select it once more. And what happens if we just go cat's normal smoother? Perfect. That fixed the shading. Now, another thing that I like to do, the waist is probably going to be a little bit wide. So I'm not going to go super crazy, but I'm just going to select this outside edge of the skirt here. We go scale, and like 0.8. Scale. Whoa! Oh, because it's still on origin. So go back to center of mass. And I think we're ready to export. Forging Destiny. Okay, so wolf pants. Okay, once again, in groups tab, we select everything. We rotate, make sure we're on origin, and start off with the X. So we go 270 degrees. And then we just do that again with the Y. I know you can probably do both at the same time, but I just like to do it this way so we can see what's happening step by step. And then we go to scale. Once again, we go to origin. And again, these we exported from Outfit Studio, so we're going to go 0.13. Scale. And I think we're good to go. Making outfits is probably a lot more tedious than the other two things. See, we're already done with the static object and the accessory. Import. Start with the pants. And you can see they scale correctly, but because Skyrim, it T-poses instead of, or it A-poses instead of T-posing, it doesn't always align correctly. So I would say our height is good. We want those greaves to hit about the knee, but we do need to scoot it up a little bit, and we're probably going to have to scale. So let's scale the whole thing. We're not scaling on the y-axis because the height is perfect. We just leave that as a 1. But we need the x and the z to be a little bit bigger, so I'm going to start out with kind of a broad stroke. Going to go 1.05 on the x and the z. Let's see what happens. Okay, we don't want it to be to overlap, or we don't want it to be huge. We just want it to kind of a nice adjusted fit. And I don't love how it fits in the back. Oh, I see what I can do. Let's hide the body. Let's just grab... Whoa. Let's grab all of the vertices that fit into the waist. And I don't think that's it. Show the body once more. And let's just zip that forward a little bit. And let's scale. I think we're just going to scale a little bit on the Z. Okay, that looks like a pretty good fit. So let's give this dude some boots. But before I do that, let me save my work. Okay, so we can see the boots are kind of funky. Boots always need a little bit of work. And what I like to do is we do these symmetrically. So whatever we move on one side, we just kind of mirror that on the other side. We go to select. And we just grab one side. And let's scoot in a little bit on our viewport so we can see what's happening.
For the boots, do you think you could use the mesh mirror plugin by Cat?
Probably.
Like, do Skyrim boots tend to have like different textures, or are they like the same but mirrored? Is that anything you need to consider?
It depends on the mesh, really. A lot of the boots, it's the same boot mirrored. But for example,
Yeah.
the Forsworn boots, there's
Oh.
one that comes up to mid thigh, and then the other is below the knee, so they're not
Oh.
exactly symmetrical.
Yeah.
It depends, and yeah, if you have a method that works for you, go for it. Or I mean, you can just for example, in this case, I think these are perfectly mirrored, so I could just delete one and then duplicate and then mirror it.
Yeah.
So instead of origin, let's go back to center of mass, and we need to scoot that on the Y, I think. So what happens if we go 10 degrees on the Y? Wrong way. Okay, no, it's not the Y. Actually, it kind of is because we need to point the toes in a little bit. So let's go at -10 on the Y and see what happens. That's the ticket. So we hide that. So because we rotated this -10, I just like to, before I move to the next step, I like to mirror it on the other boot. So that was -10, so we rotate this one 10 degrees on the Y. And let's unhide. Here, I think it's the Z. What happens if I go 10 degrees on the Z? That's kind of where we need to be. Not quite that intense. Like 8 degrees maybe. That's pretty good. I think that's as good as it gets. So hide that body. So we rotate it. The other boot 8 degrees. So this one we're going to go -8. Sorry, that's the z-axis. And I think as far as orientation, we don't need to do a whole lot. Just try to get it mostly in line with the original feet. And I think that's as good as it gets. Okay, so just a couple of steps left. We're going to grab one boot, unhide the body, and we need to move this on the x-axis. I don't remember if this one is positive or negative. Why is it not moving? Oh, because I entered an extra decimal. That is pretty close, but we still have to fix the foot. Okay. So now we select the other boot, just like so. And this needs to be a negative now. Just like that. Now, let's just select everything below that fur ruff there. And that needs to go, is that the Z? I think it needs to go on the Z. That almost fixed it. I think I like it just like that. Then we just select these vertices on the other side. And we rotate that now the same value but positive on the Z. Okay. And that's a pretty good fit. So now we're ready just to, let's joint this bad boy. Yeah, clothes are a lot trickier than accessories or just static meshes. Let's have a look at those boots. So we just trim the body mesh where those boots are. And let's have a look at the armor. I think we should trim it because we just don't want like the butt sticking out of the greaves there. Okay, that's good. How far down can we trim it? I think just one more loop there. That looks pretty good. So now, let's hide the body. And I'm going to rename this group _base. And the same thing here. So, delete the body. Don't panic because we're going to Control Z it. and delete that second group base. Export that as a TSRW or a WSO, whichever you prefer. No, that's the wrong place. And then we go wolf skirt. We Control Z. This time we do just the boots. Just like that. And then we delete those two and we just leave the body.
Can I ask why you're converting them to TR?
Okay. So I didn't super dive into that because there are different, like, there are 3 different methods. But what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use a WSO action to joint these static objects. So the first step to doing that is to export it as a WSO. We're on the first tab, auto tools for WSO, this tab here, and then auto assign bones, this sub tab. Then we go to let's do wolf boots first. And then you can export, like, for example, to auto joint, you can export just a regular old Maxis underwear mesh that generally works pretty good. So we select the WSO that we're going to joint, and then we select the WSO that we're going to grab the bone assignments for. Do assignments and save. And I'm just going to do that right over the original WSO action. Then we select wolf skirt and we do just the same thing. Okay, so let's get rid of colored groups. And let's do draw vertices with bone colors. So that's how our joints are assigned for just the regular underwear mesh. Import that skirt. And that looks pretty good. Import the boots. Also as a WSO. And not terrible. Okay. Let's get rid of that wireframe overlay. And before I do anything else, I just want to save the Milkshape file. Because if you go beyond this point without saving, you can seriously mess stuff up. And I don't want to do that today. Select one of the thighs. Right thigh. And let's rotate that forward. Okay, yeah, when it gets to a certain point, it looks kind of odd. But I don't think, unless you're doing like jumping sidekicks, then it's probably not going to be a huge issue. I think I could probably trim the legs down a little bit more so that we don't get quite that amount of clipping. Okay, but the other thing that I want to check is how well do the boots move? So let's do the calf. Okay, see, that's part of the issue. Some of these, instead of the thigh joint, they're assigned, some of the vertices are assigned to the calf, so they're moving with the calf. That's like toward the back of the skirt there. So that's not cool. We need to tweak that. And then the foot. Not horrible. Like even the underwear mesh, it does weird things when you try to do poses. So yeah, not horrible. We just need to mess with the bone assignments on the whoa. We just need to mess with the bone assignments on the skirt a little bit and maybe trim those thighs. So yeah, see you can see the legs here are we can reduce some of that clipping just by so I exited animation mode. That's important. So we just want to get rid of some of that clipping by trimming the thighs a little bit, and we're looking kind of under the skirt here to make sure that okay, yeah, see that's not cool. The inner thigh, that kind of needs to stay. Like these two vertices, I think actually three, they need to stay. We're just getting rid of the outside here. And I think that's cool. So what happens when we select draw vertex weights and we select one of the thighs, or no, sorry, one of the calves. That's an issue. Those need to be 100% to the vertices on the skirt need to be 100% on the thigh. So we're happy with the assignments on the boots. Let's hide the body. Let's unselect this here. And we need to do something different here. So let's go ahead and grab our thigh. And we're just grabbing everything up to here. And we assigned it to left thigh. Actually, I don't like that. Let's grab everything to about here, and we're just going to go. How about that too? How about that too? We'll just grab this, basically the center of the skirt. Right thigh joint. And then left thigh joint, and we're just going to split these right down the middle. 50-50. And we click on our assign button down here. And then we'll grab our left thigh joint. So everything from here over, 100% to left thigh. Now, how does that looks like it should transition a lot smoother. Okay, let's save that before we test it once more. Now let's enter animation mode. So now what happens when you try to move the thigh? Yeah, a lot less clipping. It doesn't, well, it doesn't really clip until you get way up there. See, it starts to clip about right there, which is fine. I mean, you're probably not going to use a lot of poses that tweak the thigh into that position, so it's not perfect, but I'm okay with it. Let's rotate that up and just see what happens with the calf now. So we took all of the vertices from the skirt and unassigned them from the calf. So what happens when you, yeah, see, it doesn't screw up the skirt. All that moves with the calf is the boot. We copy that comment from body, and that this is I'm going to call this body alpha for now. Just like that. And we rename the group. Just like that. And then this one, I'm going to name it boots. Give it a quick save. Export. Sorry. Very small step, but also a very important step that I neglected to mention. Let's open this shield once again. So this is going to be our frame. So I rename it frame in the comments. And then I rename it frame here. Then this one becomes lens. So I paste our comments, rename lens, lens. And once again, save and export as a 5GD. There are a lot of tutorials on building meshes. I'm not going to go into the pros and cons of that. I'm just going to show you my way. This is quick and dirty mesh building 101. So we pop over to Object Workshop. We open. And I have some accessories and close meshes that are just my go-tos for building quick meshes. So I grab an AM mesh. So you clone, and eventually it's going to open the scene graph rename wizard. So we just go just going to call this workshop wool pants. And I'm going to save it right here in my workshop folder. Well, that's not it. Save. Then we select the GMDC in the resource tree, again in the resource list, replace, and we just select that 5GD that we exported. Click yes in the pop-up, the GMDC. So we got body, we've got body alpha, and we've got boots. And there we have it. Give that a quick save. And once again, we go to Object Workshop. And it's just my SimP is getting really sluggish for some reason. Okay. And then once again, we go to the GMDC and we replace. Double check the preview. And there you have it.